And unless they pick K1's hero, or if unless they pick K1's hero here, in my mind, immediately, if they wanted to swap this over to Schofield, they could pick the Sven, or not the Sven, but they could pick the Bat Rider. They could still pick the Invoker. There are a lot of heroes that. That's the beauty of this puck, and it makes sense why they're picking Sven here because again, it makes Infamous think, okay, are we banning offlaners here? We could make the offlane pool very, very thin. Are we going to ban a mid laner because they still have that flexibility? Because as of right now, the beauty of Beast Coast lineup is they're enabling this Elder Titan incredibly so. He's going to have a very easy time letting those Earth Splitters just because it's purely wide enough. You're always able to, I think, clip every single hero in that coil. You're not able to navigate around it very easily, as well as ET just playing versus Abaddon, honestly, super nicely. If the Abaddon ever gets put to sleep, it's going to feel pretty bad. And leaning into it a little bit with this Tiny pick, we usually see the Elder Titan picked up versus the Tiny because, again, once that Tiny is in, he is trapped there. He is stuck in, and there are very many situations where Tiny will blink combo someone. If they don't die, if your lineup is a little bit too robust, maybe you break away a little bit net worth wise, then you immediately get stomped, you get Split Earth, and Tiny just gets shredded by Split Earth. His hero pool is just that high. And I am a little bit concerned because you pick up this Tiny. Do you want to put the puck in that sort of side lane position? Because you are playing Tiny versus puck. You are 100% a target. If he can get you in the Avatos, pretty much 9 times out of 10, you are just going to die straight up to that. Add in a Hoodwink Sharpshoot, add in a Bushwhack, then your chances get even worse for survival. So I think that's what Beast Coast are probably weighing right now. I think Infamous also thinking that as well. Magnus is a good ban just because it covers both bases. And yeah, they banned the TA. They do think it's going to be a Schofield puck after their Tiny pick, but at the same time, I think there are still a lot of avenues. Again, might not want to pick the Bat Rider necessarily into Abaddon, even though it does feel pretty good versus the Tiny. I think if they really wanted to, they could just go for the Invoker. That would be a really solid hero for them. And again, another hero that's very comfortable for Chris Luck, and you'd be able to play in those side lanes. I think right now they just want something to combo well with Puck, or they want to dig a little bit deeper into that offlane pool. But I think whenever you ban Veno Tidehunter, you're not really thinking of your offlaner anymore. I think this is going to be a Schofield puck and then loop back around for another Chris Luck hero. It just makes the most sense to me. Whereas Infamous, I think they're really going to find trouble finding Sacred on a hero that feels incredibly comfortable. We already saw in the first phase his Timbersaw. We talk about it so much. Timbersaw, Mars. It's just kind of the South American hero playstyle that Sacred really encapsulates. And I think now he's going to be on something a little bit B-list, a little bit sort of on the side, unless I'm really forgetting a hero here. And then we'll go Ember. Good for different reasons. I think the Invoker would have been good as well, but there's not very much lockdown on Infamous. Something to always bring up. They won't be able to hold this Ember very easily down. Although we saw the Jarl versus the Spirit in the previous game, the homing missiles definitely put the pressure on, but you're never going to have guaranteed lockdown for this Ember Spirit unless they pick something up pretty wild here on Infamous. It just doesn't exist.
Yeah, it feels like Beast Coast recognizing to a certain extent that their opponent's lineup is a little bit bursty right now and almost trying to convince Infamous to double down on that with the Ember Spirit pickup. Infamous, though, will go in for the Bristleback with that final selection. A lot of the times, recently when we've seen the Bristle, it's sort of had its position switched up a little bit, but Sacred will be taking it to the off lane.
Yeah, and it will feel honestly pretty good versus the Sven, even though, of course, you are playing it in the Sven. You have that War Cry, you have that AoE armor for the rest of your teammates, and it will be a Whisper Puck. But at the same time, I feel like you're getting a little bit greedy. Basically, what Infamous are saying here is we have these 3 really robust heroes on our team. Now your damage is going to be put into question, and that's something that this Ember pick sort of helps, sort of doesn't help, where you do now have a mix of damage split between your team pretty much in its entirety. They're very well balanced in terms of damage, but now with this Bristleback, they're saying, well, if you're ever lacking in the physical department, we have this Bristleback, we know his timings, we have another stack taker on our team that we're going to propel forward, and we have a hero that lanes honestly pretty well versus this Fen. And if this Bristleback is able to sort of get off to a good start, again, it's a very lane-dependent hero. If you can force K1 to rotate out just that little bit sooner than maybe the Gyrocopter comes to your lane, then there's going to be some counterplay that Infamous are definitely going to be able to get away with, as well as now you have Tiny versus Ember Spirit. Very, very 50 lane. Both laners are pretty much going to farm. Ember's a lot more level dependent, whereas Tiny is a lot more gold dependent, but once we hit maybe that 13, 14-minute mark, that's where we're really going to see sort of that early game devolve into the middle game and seeing whether or not those timings are going to be hit or missed by these mid laners. And that's really going to set the pace, I think, for this game.
Unfortunately, we're not getting started just yet. Bit of a pause at the start there, so we are going to have to wait just that little bit longer. But hopefully this is not too big of a deal. We did have some pauses in the earlier series as some of the players were dealing with some sort of lag and ping issues, so none of those really lasted all that long. Don't really anticipate this being an issue. No one's even dropped out in terms of disconnects, so should be ready to go pretty quickly. But sort of back to a point we were talking about heading into the series, Infamous in this scenario, still looking for their first win. 0-2 so far. As you mentioned, ET, honestly, they get... Maybe a pass is the wrong phrase, but I don't think we're going to count it too heavily against them considering they were playing up against Undying, and as of yet, no one has managed to take a game off of Undying. So only one series in, it was a loss, but they've got a chance here against one of their biggest regional rivals to really show us something, and they are going to be in action in the final series of the day as well. After this best of 2 against Beast Coast, they do play up against Team Team in our sort of nightcap series. So a lot of opportunity. Obviously, you don't want to get too far ahead of yourselves into that second series. We're just in game 1 of this one, but this is Infamous's time to really show us what they're about. Get into that sort of halfway mark in the group stage.
Yep, and we're going to have to see if, again, they're playing with each other, a little bit of some new players, but Michael and A, they've been on a team together for a very, very long time. They are the stable ones. They're the ones that have really held down the fort. And I hope that Sacred has at least a good lane. One of the better heroes to actually lane versus this Sven, just because, of course, you can buy this Ring of Protection, be a little bit ahead in the armor game. But Viscous Nasal Goo actually puts a lot of pressure on this Sven, where going up to those waves does sort of become a little bit of a liability. Of course, laning versus the Elder Titan, already seen this hero before. If you're able to get those 2 3-man spirits, which should be relatively easy, just because Michael, it's kind of telegraphed that he is going to be playing in those trees. He is just playing Hoodwink, so it's going to be easy, I think, for him to get those easy Astral Spirits out and then make the plays with K1. But I don't think Sacred's going to be too bothered by it, especially if he decides to get that level 1 2. But okay, they're making a play
Sacred,
on him.
hit up by the stun. Schofield holding his fire for now. He had the impale there, but Sacred had fallen back far enough where they didn't really feel comfortable going all in for it. So instead, they back away. Chris Luck got the rune. Stinger.
Oh. Got all of them.
Good instinct there from the Elder Titan, realizing, fight's over. No reason for me to hang around. I'll go after the rune. Might end up paying for it as Michael hits him with the bushwhack, but there's no kill potential here. Michael cannot bring a hero down. In fact, Stinger gives him a couple of smacks on the backside just for good measure. So all 4 going to Beast Coast at the start. They get a little bit of damage onto their opponents as well. So pretty solid start to the lane for them. And Stinger, did that block? Yes, it did. So that side camp not even going to be available for Alone.
Yeah, unfortunately, he did walk in the daytime vision, so Alone just pings it out. It is something that he will have to contend with, probably after his bottle is picked up, but it's just going to be less farm for him, and now Stinger's just running at him, gonna try to, equips the Hoodwink right at the end with that Astral Spirit. And if he can keep his armor up, yeah, this ET does hurt a lot. He's got a big stick as well. Maybe another reason why they wanted to spark that early engagement. They had 2 sticks on this top lane versus the Bristleback. So both those heroes actually started with, I think, 4 or 5 charges. So they're sitting nice and pretty in the health and mana department, even though they're already pretty much out of regen. But Stinger had a pretty nice courier coming out to him already.
And Michael's going to take a couple of hits here once again, and this is just the way this lane's going to go. Stinger will hit him up every time. You mentioned, you know where Michael's going to be. He has to be sort of hanging out in that tree line, so getting the double spirit down is going to be pretty fantastic. And then if Stinger pushes in for the damage, Michael either has to fall back entirely or use the scurry to try to get away. And if the scurry is being used exclusively for defensive purposes, you're not exactly getting yourself into a position to put any aggression down to slow K1's farming rate. So this lane, so far at least, playing out just about the way we had sort of anticipated. Stinger is going to be getting K1 as many opportunities as possible, and this duo of Sacred and Michael can't do a whole lot about it right now.
And you take a look back and look at Sacred's mana pool, really goes all the way back to when... Oh, nice bushwhack coming in from Michael, but at the end of the day, Sacred is not having too many options available to him because he spent so much mana for that initial First Blood or Bounty Rune contestation with his Quills. He was trying to make it maybe a kill threat on one of the heroes trying to kill him, but it's just when that easy disengage sort of happened for Beast Coast, he was really the one left with pretty much nothing. I think he has a salve coming out on the courier now, but this still feels like Bristleback is getting really hard zoned from his wave. It's a nice try, and Michael's trying to pull the wave back right now, but again, K1's having none of it, and they're going to miss out on a range creep. It's not feeling great right now for Infamous.
Just limited options. That's really the name of the game. K1, even look at that. Efficiency. He's going to throw the Stormhammer out. Could he save it for damage onto those opposing heroes? Yeah, sure he can. But why would you? If you can get 2 extra last hits, Sacred basically does not register in this lane. K1 sees a creep wave, and that's pretty much it. Which normally you sort of see that as maybe a bit of a bad thing, sort of tunnel visioning in. But if Sacred and Michael can't threaten him, why should K1 really care? He's just going to farm away in this lane, and I don't know. If you're Infamous, your ability to sort of take control of this one early is pretty much already gone. You're just looking to get Sacred anything that you can find for him and hope that that's going to be enough for some sort of opportunity later. But it is going to be a rough go for them to this point. Good news, at least, for the side of Infamous is that their other cores are still farming pretty well. Tiny's looking pretty good in that middle lane as Alone is going to work. 19 last hits for the Gyrocopter down in the bottom lane, so yeah. And as I say that, actually Sacred, I mean, at 17 and 2, he's really not even all that far behind. So you're not going to slow down the Sven, but your own cores are looking pretty good so far. I think that's just going to have to be good enough.
And I really think it is sort of K1's style to push out the wave constantly. Sometimes we do see Sven's saving their skill points, but he's actually been losing quite a few ranged creeps to Michael and Sacred, and it's the level 3 on the Bristleback that really puts a lot more pressure on really just the Sven being sole in the lane. And up until Stinger gets a little bit more mana to play with, I don't think they feel confident enough to actually put too much pressure on the Bristleback, and that's where K1 is actually getting zoned just a little bit here. I don't think Stinger is giving him too much support. He's been trying to get the half pulls off. Unfortunately, his creeps did finally die. He was able to deny, I think, a full wave sort of added together through 2 pulls, but at the end of the day, the main goal is just to get the Sven levels and then have an easy rotation for the Elder Titan to go stack for his team. That's something I think we were sort of missing in the Force Zoomer series. I don't think Husky really had too many opportunities to stack, whereas I know that Hector is going to want stacks. K1 is going to want to farm those.
Yeah, you don't really get away with that, which is part of the reason why sort of Stinger works so well in this system. He is incredibly talented in terms of setting up his teammates for those successful opportunities, as right now, he is going to just smack the crap out of Sacred a little bit. Did lose that bonus damage on the Spirit, but it is going to push that Bristleback away. So, yeah, if you're Beast Coast, why not? The Hoodwink steps out for a moment, you get an opportunity to push in, but now, oh, there's going to be the Bushwhack. Good stomp from Stinger, though, doesn't connect, but it forces everybody away. So Sacred can't keep on pushing forward, and K1 really not going to feel too much in the way of pain in this lane, but Stinger, look at him go. He's in onto Michael once again. One more shot, and he's got it. The Bushwhack is going to stun him up, though, so Michael does have the defensive capabilities there, but this is why you pick up this Elder Titan. Well, one of the reasons why, at least early on in the game. He can just bully your opponents.
Look at Alone, the Tiny. He's smoked, he's not invis, but very sneaky.
He wants K1, though. He would rather get the bigger kill, but he's not going to get it. Michael?
Oh, the Bushwhack.
Okay. Bushwhack is there. Avalanche comes through as well. They need the toss.
Perfect.
K1 taken down. Stinger should be dying as well. Schofield, what are you doing here? He's looking for that kill. He actually doesn't have the damage for it. He's only level 2. If either of those abilities had an extra point in it, maybe he makes it happen, but the rotation comes a little bit too late, and it's not quite strong enough. First blood and a second kill to Infamous, and that was a little bit awkward from the Tiny, but eventually he makes it work, and now they got more. Schofield, no point up. He's only level 2, as we just said, so no Carapace to bail him out as Alone. Alone actually got all 3 of those kills. That is fantastic for Infamous.
And now you look at Alone, you see he's not going for the phase boots, he's greeting out for the blink dagger, but he's only about 1,000 away. He is incredibly fast with that easy rotation. I don't think they really reacted appropriately enough. I think Hector going for the TP there could have juked out a little bit more, sort of bumbles into Michael, and then just loses his life, loses his TP, has to walk to a stack, which are waiting for him in the jungle, but still, giving this much momentum over to the Tiny is not going to feel fantastic.
They're able to get in onto A at least.
Yeah, and that's where Whisper, he's been getting all the XP from bottom. It's been a very sad game for Schofield. I think, again, prioritizing the levels on the puck just that little bit sooner, and Owen actually TP's bottom. He isn't able to break the Flame Guard with his full combo just yet, but getting levels on the Nyx Assassin is going to be key for them in this game. I think that is your sort of guaranteed stun where you need Schofield to be able to make these plays, and his game is just non-existent. Of course, gave it over to Whisper, and Whisper is absolutely having a good time. He's sort of just chilling. It's going to be level 7 in just a moment here, but will Whisper be able to sort of invade the gyrocopter's lane? I don't know if you're going to be seeing this puck make those rotations on Lumiere. That's where that Nyx Assassin might feel a little bit stronger, but it's how Beast Coast prioritize their levels. Same with Stinger. If Stinger's able to get his level 6, he's going to be able to make so many more plays, especially syncing up with the puck. I think that's a big reason why this sort of pairing works so much.
Yeah, it's Beast Coast just feels like maybe they're not in the exact position they want right now, but as long as they can stay safe from the aggression from the Tiny, they should be okay. But right on cue, here comes Alone, looking for the fight, not able to get onto K1, but they do spot out Stinger. That Avalanche, it does connect. Now, yeah, Alone's in some trouble. The rotations come through. Chris Luck is here. K1 and Schofield into the fight. Alone stuns himself, unfortunately. That Carapace, well-timed by Schofield, and Chris Luck gets the kill, and that's a killing spree brought to an end this early. That's a nice little bit of bonus gold for your Ember, who jumps up to second place in the net worth.
Now
so,
bottom. Whisper.
Bit of a risky play, but yeah, Whisper wants it. He's got it. Can he get away from A? Yes, he can. Or, well, maybe he can't. He's very slow. Wow. A is able to hit him up with the level 3 Mist Coil, so, you make that a trade, but losing Lumiere at the start of that one is going to hurt Infamous quite a bit. You see Beast Coast, between the kills and now the sort of fantastic farming they've been putting together, they're up by 2k, just shy of that 10-minute mark, as Alone able to strike back, catches out Chris Luck in the river, gets a little bit of help there from the Hoodwink, and okay, a little bit of revenge for the Tiny. He gave up the killing spree, but he'll take some of that money back.
Just perfectly chained together. Honestly, didn't think they had enough damage for a few moments there, but now Alone, after this creep wave, he's going to be so close to his Blink Dagger, and that's where I think you finally make a rotation over to Whisper. I can't believe Whisper found a solo kill on the Lumiere. I think Lumiere was just getting a little bit greedy, didn't have his Possessed Mask just yet, so now Lumiere is probably going to retreat a little bit further into his jungle. But now Alone, with the Blink Dagger, this is his time to make the plays, especially before Schofield hits level 6 on that Nyx Assassin. He really does have a free pass here, as well as A. A has so many levels. He's just been the sole defender of this bottom lane, but it's just kind of working for him.
Yeah, a bit of a strange one. Part of the reason maybe why the Tiny wanted to go for that Blink Dagger so early, recognizing there might be a window of opportunity here, a little sort of time frame where I'm going to have this and the other side won't quite be ready. As A, borrowed time popped, Whisper though still on him. There's going to be the silence. The orb comes out as well, and yeah, that's really the limits of what A could do there. He was looking in a pretty good spot with that ult up, but will still be taken down. Meanwhile, Schofield, where's your health at, bud? Nope. It's pretty much gone as Alone jumps in. Avalanche into the toss, into the sharpshoot. Nice hit in from the Hoodwink. Michael makes it happen, and Alone, he's the one to get all those kills once again. So it's just working out so perfectly for Infamous in terms of how these sort of pick plays are playing out for them. The Tiny's getting all the gold, and you're starting to get a little bit more aggressive now. With that Blink Dagger, they can continue to play in this fashion. However, up in the top lane, Sacred is getting jumped in on. Singer would need to connect with the Stomp. He is going to go for it here. Into the Earth Splitter. Is that going to be enough? No, it doesn't even hit. So this is getting a little bit awkward, but Schofield's in. If he could hit with that Vendetta, maybe they could make this happen. They do get the hit down, but they need the stun to follow it up. Instead, it's A that they're kind of focusing in on, although at this point, it's kind of hard to say they're focusing anybody. They're just throwing out the damage anywhere they can. They've taken A down, but Sacred was able to heal up. Now the Sharpshoot coming in again. That's going to drop Stinger low enough for Sacred to finish him off. So Michael's really just making the rotations here. 6 assists on the board anytime his team needs him. Well, he is there, although maybe he's wishing he weren't here now, as Whisper's going to hit him up with the Dream Coil. Bushwhack will buy some time, but the Impale still locks him down, and Sacred, you don't want to be here. It is time to go. Chris Luck just sort of heads him off there at the pass with that Remnant jump, so not a whole lot he could do for his teammate. Michael gets taken down, Whisper's able to make the move, but now... well, now we've got some more heroes on the Infamous side. Alone has rotated in with the Invis Rune. Can they actually make anything happen here? This is going to get a little bit risky, and now he's stepped into the radius of that sentry, so Beast Coast should see him. Do they have any plans to try and counter it out? Schofield's just waiting for the Carapace. Doesn't look like Alone's going to take the bait.
Yeah, and it really just took a little bit too much time for Alone to get that reset after the 2 kills bottom. I believe he TP'd mid, pushed in the wave, somewhere that now K1 has really started to play. He just pushes in that mid wave, walks over to his triangle, everything. Again, it's all efficiency for K1. He uses his TPs so aggressively when it comes to farming. He's really in a league of his own when it comes to that playstyle. That's why we see him get as big as he is, as fast as he is, because he just plays in this carry style that really nobody emulates or sort of plays as well as he does. And he's just going to be super huge. He's going to be the highest net worth hero on the map most likely, unless this gyrocopter can start to make those appearances. Alone, though, continue to make those plays. It's something that he has to do. If you ever start to slow down with the kills on Tiny, you've seen Tinys before really lag behind him. Okay, they're going to help A.
They're looking to bring the reinforcements. Alone is coming. He's going to get in there for the avalanche into the toss, but A does get taken down, but traded out so far. Schofield dying. K1 doesn't have a whole lot of mana to fight with, but he does have reinforcements coming in. Whisper's looking for the Dream Coil, connecting it onto 2. They'll get the silence down to follow it up, but the call down from Lumiere is in there for the damage. That's going to force the puck to fall back, but the TPs are coming in. The ET wants into the fight, so too does Chris Luck. Jumping onto the back line, going in for the Sleight of Fist. Immediately, though, hit up by the Bushwhack. He's taking a hell of a lot of damage, but as Alone goes back in, Whisper hits him up with that orb. Alone will fall, and now Sacred, well, where's the backup? He went into this fight anticipating that his teammates were going to be there to help him out. That is very much not the case, and now he's just going to get run down eventually. K1 needs 1 or 2 more hits, or maybe just the Stormhammer to finish it. There we go. As they do find that kill. Very nicely played by Beast Coast. It looked like initially they had maybe walked into that trap, but they've got the outpost. They TP the heroes in, and that one's going to go their way after quite a bit of effort, but a win's a win.
And it's just Lumiere rotating just a little bit too slow. I think he was farming his triangle. If he made that sort of transition over to that ramp a little bit sooner, I think that we probably would have seen a trade out on that Sven. But going into the high ground versus Elder Titan versus Nyx Assassin, it's just not something that you necessarily want to put yourself in that risk. But Infamous go for it instead, and now Alone, that's your second death. You can afford maybe 1 more, but you need to play a little bit cleaner. I think you need to actually finish the kills you start, and it's fantastic that you were able to get Schofield top, but you need to continue to find picks, specifically I want to say onto Whisper, especially with the build that he's gone for. I like that Whisper went for the treads. A lot of times we see pucks leave this item slot open in case you want to go back for those boots of travel, but looking at him right now, you have 1400 HP as a puck, you have the double null wand, you're a very tanky hero. You're actually surprisingly hard for this Tiny to kill now, and they're making a play on K1 mid it looks like, but I think this play might just die here. They kind of need to connect. They're very split on Infamous right now.
Yeah, it feels like they're trying to sort of look in multiple different directions, although they do get in onto the Nyx Assassin. What the heck happened to his model there? That was not okay, but they will find the kill. Schofield gets taken down. Michael finds the kill. Now they'll try to push their way mid, where Chris Luck needs to have a safety valve. I assume he's dropped down a Remnant, but he's not leaving just yet. There we go. Did have that Remnant in position, but Alone's going to track him down. Can't get through the shield just yet, but okay. No further reinforcements. His teammates weren't quite as fast. They don't have, 10-minute blink daggers like Alone did, so they're going to be forced to fall back, but they do fall back into a position where they can now push the tower. Tier 1 is starting to drop. Schofield, though, setting up with a Meteor Hammer. That is going to connect onto A, so they've got the Abba stunned up. Stinger comes in with the Stomp as well. That's going to trigger that borrowed time, but that's not going to do much more than that. The tower will still fall. Meanwhile, Alone and Michael jumped in onto the Ember again. This time there was no Flame Guard to protect him. So if you're Infamous, it takes multiple attempts, but they get the kill and the tower. Now K1, gotta be a little bit careful there. He's standing very close to Alone. So The Sven will be backing himself away, but now we're starting to see Infamous get themselves going with these initiations from the Tiny. They started out aggressive. It sort of dipped off a little bit for them as they sort of lost 1 or 2 fights, but now they're back into the swing of things. They know what they need to do. The Tiny can't afford to sort of take his foot off the gas, so Alone is still looking for the opportunities, and so far he's been relatively successful here. And once he has this Echo Saber, the sort of solo kill potential from him is going to take another step forward.
And you take a look as well, he used his illusion ring so effectively. Beast Coast swear that there are sentries in their triangle, but there's nothing. There were just 2 illusions sort of blocking up everything, forcing K1 now to farm where his Ember Spirit would ideally like to farm. And I think really the reason that the gold lead is still maintained on the Beast Coast side is because of how much net worth Whisper has been able to amass for himself. But now, you haven't seen Beast Coast actually instigating too many fights here. Schofield going for the Meteor Hammer is definitely prioritizing his own game, but he's not making plays across the map. And yeah, when you're showing lanes on Nixasats and top.
Start with a stun, they get the stomp to follow it up. K1's going to pop the BKB. They want into this fight. They do take down A, but they need so much more than that. They're going to try to focus in onto Sacred now as well, but at this point I feel like they've just used up everything they had as Chris Luck is going to get sort of stunned up. But further to the north, Sacred, that's not okay. He pushes too far forward. He thought he had his opponents on the run, but Whisper is able to join the fight, and Sacred just goes too far forward. He gets taken down. Michael falls as well. Now Alone is sort of being run off of the sort of river area as well, although he's got full HP and a regen rune bottle, so he's not actually going to get caught there. But the Beast Coast sort of bait their opponents in. Yeah, they lose a hero elsewhere on that map, but Schofield for 3 definitely going to work out for them, and now Beast Coast are looking to push a tower.
Yeah, and I think the only reason they make that jump top is because Schofield calls out 3 heroes jump to me mid. They all have to TP, and we see the TPs sort of flood to that top lane. They weren't able to get Lumiere at the end of the day, but I think just not showing. There's a lot of, like you said, baiting going on with Beast Coast, and this is something that those experienced, I want to say, LAN teams are fantastic at. They're really good at feigning out opponents, making them feel like they're strong, and then punishing their overextensions. And Sacred, he thought there was no way he could die. He's got Hood Vanguard, an Ogre Club, and 1000 HP, walks up high ground into a God Strength Sven who doesn't have BKB, and he thinks that he's out of gas, but instead you have Whisper showing up at the perfect moment, and it's only going to get easier for Beast Coast to make those appearances as we see more items built up on both the Ember Spirit and the Puck. And now Schofield might get killed bottom again. Bushwhack.
Whisper comes in with the silence, though. Is that going to be enough to really matter as of right now? Well, it depends on your definition. It doesn't matter in terms of saving Schofield, but it does allow Whisper and Schofield to turn that one around, as Schofield and Michael pretty much complete the perfect trade-off. 1 for 1. Everybody goes their separate ways, but now in the river, Chris Luck looking to jump in onto A. That is going to trigger that borrowed time, as A was dropped low enough where he didn't really have much of a choice in the matter, but not much more than that. But if you're Chris Luck, you burn through about a minute-long cooldown for very little. He got the Invis rune bottled up, so not a whole lot lost. He can now pop that Invis and look for another opportunity elsewhere on the map, and we'll see where he goes right now. Whisper is sort of hanging out in the south side jungle, but Dreamcoil's not up for 35, so I don't think they have an immediate opportunity there. And at this point, there's really no one even on this north section of the map. So if Chris Luck really wants this, he'd have to go pretty damn far for it.
And I don't think they're going to make a play like that. And unfortunately, Infamous, I think, whiff just a little bit. And you see that they're trying to play a little bit more connected, but
this
Alone.
Is a little awkward for Alone. Yeah, what in the world happened there? Michael is going to try, but there's only so much he can do. Alone's just dead to rights. They pick him off. That is so far forward for him. A little uncharacteristic from Alone to just kind of get that overconfident, but he does get punished for it. K1 takes him down. The tier 1 tower will be falling mid as well, as he uses the last sort of, I was going to say few moments. He's still got half the duration. Either way, though, the God Strength will help him take the tower, but now Whisper needs to get away. He's hit up by the Bushwhack, but he'll jump out of that fight, and Beast Coast, they have control of the field. This is very dangerous for Infamous. Sacred is trying to push his way forward, but there's not a whole lot he can do here. There's 0 lockdown on that Bristle, so he can run at you. He's very angry. He's throwing quill sprays at you, but he can't actually prevent any of these Beast Coast heroes from getting out.
And that's where you need to be more connected to your Abaddon. If you blink in like that on the Tiny, that is where you're going to see Stinger in full force, where you have that punishment, you have that increased magic damage, you have that anti-armor. You never want to let this ET get close to you, and if he's going to sit there and punish you like that, I like what they're doing right now. I like that they're getting a smoke. They want to spiral this into an easy Aegis over on the side of Infamous, and I think, did they scout? They didn't scout the ET's teleport, but off the scan, he also cancels his TP. This is a really smart call coming in from Beast Coast, because now, with their full 5-man lineup, if he can get an Astral Spirit into the Roche Pit, this is going to be the perfect scout, but it's dying fast. There's a lot of anti-armor.
Yeah, they're taking it really fast. Lumiere, meanwhile, he's a little bit more prepared for this fight. The Satanic is in his inventory, so this is going to get a little rough for Beast Coast, but they're going for it. The Earth Splitter's coming through. It does connect. Roshan, though, does still fall. Lumiere's going to grab the Aegis, but Beast Coast, they're looking like they want it anyway. Whisper's got to be a bit careful here as Alone jumped in onto K1. They don't have the God Strength up for a few more seconds, so K1 has to wait, but stun comes through. Lumiere locked down. Meanwhile, further to the south, A going to get picked off. Schofield finds the first kill. He's looking now to get himself away as he'll TP himself home, and again, Sacred, 0 lockdown. No way to cancel that, so your Nyx Assassin falls back only to the tier 2 mid, though, so he could rejoin his teammates if this does turn into a larger engagement, but if you're Beast Coast, the timing's just that little bit off. They got down the Spirit, they threw out the Earth Splitter, things were looking okay, it's just a second or two off the mark, so if you're Infamous, I think you're still happy with that. You get the Aegis into the hands of the Gyrocopter, that's exactly what you needed. You do lose your ABBA, but overall you're going to be okay with that one, and I mentioned earlier on, Lumiere went for the Satanic as opposed to sort of like a BKB play that we see from the Gyrocopters in that slot, so the itemization choices have been switched up a little bit, and in fact, it's actually just not going to go for the BKB at all. He's looking for Butterfly, and Scotty queued up after that, so that does seem like a little bit of a risk here. Beast Coast have a lot of lockdown that could potentially be nullified by that BKB, but Lumiere hoping that this build is going to give him a little bit more damage, and maybe you just do so much damage right at the start that Beast Coast can't keep you locked down long term because their own heroes are sort of already on the retreat. It's risky, but it could work. Speaking of risky, Chris Luck, that's too far. Wanted that final camp, but he does get picked off for it.
And honestly, with his itemization, that's where he just wants to tank up as much as possible and play really to the advantages of his matchup. You need to set yourself up where this Sven cannot play on top of you. He needs to kite it out. We actually see K1 queuing up an Ags, an item that really nobody has bought on that hero for a very long time. But right after it, you do see that MKB to be picked up sort of in the same cadence as this Butterfly. But Lumiere is going to have this Butterfly much sooner than K1's going to have that MKB. Maybe he switches up the order as soon as he sees how close or how many components Lumiere actually has accomplished, but as of right now, Infamous can play as a 5-man, and Beast Coast, I think they have to play this very dodgy style. Fortunately, their lineup is very adept at it. The puck is very scary when it comes to really just never getting picked off, and Alone can't do much versus it. He can try to get sort of those cheeky plays, but unless Michael is synced up with him, I think Whisper has built himself up, again, very tanky. He's got a Scotty almost done on that puck, and once these items come out, again, we're going to see sort of the name of the game is going to be kiting this Gyrocopter during BKB, kiting through his Satanic, and if they can keep this Gyrocopter's hands tied, it's going to feel like this matchup inevitably doesn't matter. And that's where I think you still see Beast Coast keeping that gold lead because they are playing that map just that little bit more efficiently, where Infamous, they need to stay as a 5-man. They need to stay as a very solid unit. That's why Schofield has been able to get so much farm on his Nyx Assassin, and oh, he just killed Michael.
They're in. Michael's dead, and Ace already used the ult, so he's got nowhere to go. He's just going to get picked off here. Both of the supports dead, and yeah, that is something I sort of wanted to point out. The Nyx Assassin, he's got so much gold compared to the other cores here. He's sitting on a Meteor and an Aghanim Scepter, so there is a lot of lockdown coming out from this Nyx Assassin, more so than Infamous may be prepared to deal with, which is part of the reason why the lack of BKBs at this point in the game is maybe a little bit more concerning. The Gyrocopter won't have that protection. Alone is starting to build towards it, but hasn't actually purchased any of the components yet, so maybe now that they realize, like, Jesus, this Nyx Assassin has an Aghanim Scepter at 25 minutes. Maybe they put a little bit more focus into some of those defensive itemizations. But at this point, you've sort of handed a little bit of that momentum back. You see Beast Coast pushing their way forward. They want the tier 2. They're not going to be able to get it just yet, but now that's an interesting call down thrown onto Schofield. Stomp, though, in from the Elder Titan really prevents Infamous from doing anything in terms of follow-up after that play.
And here is the sort of issue emerging with Alone, is that now you look at his BKB timing, and this is not feeling fantastic. He hasn't really been able to make those same plays. He wasn't able to find those picks. And again, it's going to get more and more difficult. You see how confident Whisper and Chris Luck are able to play in those side lanes now. Once you have this Scotty, you have this Kai Assange, again, it makes it so easy to play in those side lanes. And these tier 3 items coming up as well. Now you have a Mindbreaker. Now you're going to need to play even harder. I think Schofield is pretty much dead to rights here. But this Aegis is not accomplishing very much, but it's actually going to inspire.
Times out. Here comes K1. They're in for it. They've got down. Oh my god. They throw down the ults from pretty much everybody. Mirror Splitter coming out in the middle of that Dream Coil. Infamous. I mean, how many times have we talked about Schofield sort of baiting the other team here? He is a wily...
Doesn't even die.
Veteran player, and yeah, he loses half HP. Boo-hoo. He healed it all up inside of the burrow while his teammates just cleaned up. I mean, at a certain point, yes, the Nyx Assassin is alone in the middle lane. You can get that kill quickly, but you don't need all 5 of your heroes stepping directly into basically melee range of that Nyx. That sets them up so horribly for that follow-up from Beast Coast. They lose everything, and now the backdoor protection is here to help out, but creep waves coming in. They should be able to clear it out before everyone respawns. They've got Schofield in an aggressive burrowed position here as well, so I'm not really sure if they're going to be able to defend this. They're going to try for it at least, but without the gyro for another 20, they may just have to let this go.
They want to go for a toss-back play. They want to get something going for them, a play, anything. But I think Beast Coast, they're just too strong right now. Infamous definitely missed their timing here. You don't even see a BKB built up. They try to get the toss-back on the Schofield. That was so tight. I can't believe he was actually able to just walk it out.
Alone actually does have a Force Staff, so if he'd have been willing to go all in for that play, maybe he could have gotten into position, but that Force Staff is kind of his escape route as Schofield. How much time can he buy here, really? They're just hitting him up as best as they can, and very nice. They get the kill, but if you're Schofield, you sacrifice yourself. You got the entire middle lane of Rax. Everyone on your team is clear onto the other side of the map by the time you fall. So, sacrificial lamb, but it works out perfectly.
Now, it really feels like if Infamous aren't able to get this next Roche in their favor, they have the BKBs queued up now. You had to go for a Force Staff on Alone, so that BKB on Tiny is non-existent. You are not going to get this before the next Roche, I don't believe. And your Gyrocopter, he is going to be your sort of sole protector. And this was what I was worried about when you pick up the Puck ET. It's very similar, almost even better than picking up, let's say, the Puck Mars, where you can force them to do and play in a fashion that's not going to feel fantastic. They're in the coil, they're trapped, and now they're stuck on the low ground.
And Michael's dead, and Alone's in trouble. Sure would be nice if he had a BKB, but he's got to Force Staff himself through it. He does pop that tether, so he was stunned up, but he gets himself out. Force Staff does its job, so Alone is okay for now, but Whisper is still sort of looking for him. Meanwhile, A getting a little bit bullied up in the top lane. Scofield's tracking him down. Stinger will TP in, and they're going to look for this one. A, he's got the ult, but he could try to TP out at this point, but there's so much lockdown. I do not believe he's making that in this one. Split Earth will sort of take away most of that HP, but he's still fighting his way through this. He's actually not dead yet, but the reason he's not dead is because the rest of Beast Coast went after a more valuable target. They tracked down Sacred in the top lane, as K1 will get that kill. Meanwhile, back up top, they will eventually go down as well. Schofield and Stinger get their man, and that is 2 kills across the board here. Beast Coast looking pretty good, and now Aghanim Scepter picked up by Chris Luck. That's the second time today we've seen the Ember look for that Ags upgrade.
And it's really indicative of sort of the game that we have found ourselves in, where the Ember Spirit has complete confidence, not going for a BKB, not valuing pretty much any of the lockdown on the Infamous side. The Kai Assange is good enough. And now that he has this Aghanim Scepter, Michael doesn't get to play anymore. Every single time this Hoodwink shows, it's just that free, it's that strong. We will probably see those Fire Remnant burst damage plays coming out as well. Lumiere will most likely be able to farm up that BKB before he is forced to fight in the Roche pit, but still, this does not feel fantastic. And you see Beast Coast taking no chances. You almost have a Daedalus built up on your puck. They just use so much net worth so efficiently on the Beast Coast side, where Infamous, again, they were supposed to sort of find their timing, find their 5-man where Beast Coast couldn't stand up to them. They had to kite it out. They had to be patient. And I think Infamous just didn't push the envelope hard enough. Beast Coast got away with a little too much split push, and I think that's what their lineup is meant to do, but this is just a little too much. They're definitely getting Beast Coast right now. They don't even know that Roshan is alive despite having pretty much all of the map control. In the smoke, it's good, but Alone needs to find his jump. He needs to find his man. Otherwise, this is going to just be another fight where they get stuck on the low ground. Starting on Stinger would be fantastic.
Lone is going to make the play. They jump in. They do have Stinger. Can they lock him down in time? No, they can't. K1 flying in, Supermaning his way forward as they're going to take down Michael immediately. Now they're in onto Lumiere. The BKB's been activated, but he needs to be able to pop the Satanic. He will get it off, but he's just not doing enough. K1 wins the man fight through the Satanic. Lumiere's dead, and that is an absolute disaster. Yeah, disaster. So disastrous, Infamous will just call it there. The GG comes out, and I mean, they needed to kill Stinger there. I'm not even sure if that would have been enough, but without that kill, they blow so much onto one hero that there's nothing left to fight anyone else on the Beast Coast side.
And in retrospect, you do take a look at the game and you see the Beast Coast were never actually at a gold deficit. I think the closest it ever got was a 1K gold lead, but Infamous, I think, again, we're seeing these teams, they get that Aegis early. Maybe it's a cheeky play. Maybe they take it off of a good team fight, but then it feels like they don't know what to do with it, or they stall out and they feel too accepting of the game state. Whereas Beast Coast, I think they were always playing a little bit more on the fringe, and maybe their heroes allow it just a little bit more than the Infamous side. But Beast Coast, you can't get away with a Meteor Hammer on Nyx Assassin while you're getting away with this build on Whisper, where you get a Scotty as your third item. Your targets are just disappearing by the minute on Infamous. I think they really needed to play a lot more aggressive, because Beast Coast were able to waltz towards these very lofty luxury item timings, and they pretty much hit them on the mark. You had a Meteor Hammer Axe on Nyx Assassin, you had Scotty Witchblade Blink Dagger Scotty on Whisper. They just had way too much farm and net worth to work with. I felt like Infamous, the entire game, they were looking for a good, honest fight, and Beast Coast never gave them one. They got continuously baited by Schofield, and really the two times where Schofield was just sitting there kind of playing around, everybody thought it was just not a serious jump. They get lulled into that false sense of security, and then suddenly we don't have BKB on our Tiny. We don't have BKB on Gyrocopter. Now we don't have a mid-rax. It just ended so quickly for Infamous. Their game fell apart just pretty much instantly after that play.
Yeah, the escalation from one missed play to, as you said, suddenly Beast Coast want team fights. We don't have BKBs. We don't have the defensive capabilities here, which is maybe something that you sort of knew was coming when you go for Alone on this Tiny. When you have the Blink Dagger as his sort of first major item, you know we're sort of going all in on offense, but it just really doesn't play out. That momentum comes to just a screeching halt. They get completely shut down, and Lumiere, at the end of all of that, 0 kills on that Gyrocopter. That's not obviously the only problem that they had in this game, but that is frankly unacceptable. You can't have 0 kills on your carry. That's just, there's no way you can win a game in that fashion. So Infamous really just feels like they got kind of taken for a bit of a ride. Beast Coast really let them pick up what they wanted because they knew how to deal with it.
And I think at the end of the day, probably a slight draft issue, because you look at it in sort of the end screen here, and it does feel like maybe you needed Sacred on more of a playmaking hero. Maybe you needed more than just your Avatos combo. You needed a little bit more lockdown. This is, I think, the third time that we're seeing this Hoodwink Abba pairing together, and on paper, I think it feels fantastic. But if you can't execute it, if you can't sort of get away with your timings, you're just missing another stun, or you're missing more damage. You need to sort of bank on what you actually have in your lineup and not play around what the enemy team has. We've seen a lot of teams sort of struggle with that, especially when you're drafting versus a team, again, the biggest veterans in SA, more or less, on this Beast Coast lineup. I think really sort of shore up those draft issues. Don't put as much pressure on Alone this time around. Get something for Sacred. I think they can get a little bit greedier with their hero picks and then feel a lot better, because right now, again, that was sort of the main issue. They had last pick, they had Sacred, and they stuck him on Bristleback. There's not much to say about it other than that.
So we'll see what kind of adjustments they make draft-wise heading into game number 2. Still looking for that first win. They've now dropped 3 straight matches, hoping for their own sake that it's not going to be 4 straight here. But we will be moving into game 2 in just a few minutes. So we're going to step away, take a short break, and we'll be back with game 2 between Infamous and Beast Coast. So stick around, and the draft will be coming up pretty quickly here.